The Jyoti Singh case happened on the 16th of December, 2012, in Munirka, South Delhi in India. Jyoti Singh, a 22-year-old intern, and her friend, Avnindra Pratap Pandey, were on a private bus when the incident occurred. Singh was brutally beaten, raped, and tortured by 6 people on the bus, including the driver. Her male friend was also attacked. Singh was taken to a hospital in Delhi but was later moved to Singapore because of the seriousness of her injuries. Sadly, she passed away 2 days after. In compliance with Indian law, her real name was not initially disclosed to the media to stop people from knowing her identity. She was called Nirbhaya, the Fearless One, but her parents later gave consent to government to use her real name. Welcome back to Crime in Prison. Today we're looking at the story of Jyoti Singh was very pathetic. Her brave fight and tragic death became a symbol of how women stand up against sexual violence everywhere. People are still shocked even today to hear about the gruesome and violent act perpetrated by 6 terrible men. This story will bring tears to your eyes as it did many people. I also struggled to put the story together. You will find it so unimaginable to even put yourself in her shoes. It was the height of hate. In fact, the perpetrator crossed the limit of all cruelty. By the way, Crime in Prison is a collection of narratives that delve into the world of crime, punishment, and redemption. From tales of daring crimes to accounts of life behind bars, these stories provide a glimpse into the darker aspects of human behavior and the consequences that follow. The best way to support me is by subscribing to the channel, so if you want to see more stories like this, please hit subscribe. Now let's get right down to it. Jyoti Singh was born on May 10, 1990, in Delhi in India. She was the oldest of 3 children and the only daughter in her family. They belonged to the lower middle class. Her parents came from a small village in the Bolia district of Uttar Pradesh. While her mother managed the household, cooking, cleaning, and providing unwavering support and encouragement, her father worked 2 jobs tirelessly to support the family and ensure his children received a good education. Despite facing financial challenges, her father had dreams of becoming a schoolteacher himself when he was younger. However, he couldn't pursue further education due to lack of funds. Nonetheless, he was determined to provide his children with the educational opportunities he missed. Jyoti was a very bright and intelligent student who excelled in her education. Her parents loved her dearly. She was the glory of her family, and she brought them joy that even money could not buy. Her father expressed his dedication to education, saying, "When I left my village 30 years ago, I promised never to deny my children opportunities. Sending them to school fulfilled my thirst for knowledge." He stressed that discrimination was never in their hearts, stating that his children's happiness, regardless of gender, was of utmost importance. He said he wouldn't be satisfied if his son received an education, but his daughter did not, emphasizing that denying education to a girl who loved learning was unthinkable. Jyoti mainly lived in Delhi, but occasionally visited her family's ancestral village. She enrolled for physiotherapy, a course in the medical field, and decided to do her internship. 16th of December, 2012 was a holiday, and so Jyoti decided to go watch a movie with a friend. His name is Avnindra Pratap Pandey, a software engineer from Gorakhpur, Uttar Pradesh, residing in Ber Sarai, New Delhi. Both of them were residents of Gorakhpur. They decided to go out and watch Talash, a Amir Khan's film. Both of them got into a public transport to City Walk Socket. However, when they got there was a huge crowd and they couldn't get any ticket to watch the movie of their choice. So they watched another movie titled Life of Pi at PVR Select City Walk Socket and decided to go home by public bus afterwards. They got an auto rickshaw to Munirka bus stand. The driver told them he would drop them off at the Munirka bus station, from where they would take another bus to their destination. They agreed. Both of them thought that they would take another bus from Munirka to Dwarka. Unfortunately, there was no bus at Dwarka station. They waited with growing fear. As time passed, they got even more worried. The night was so quiet, except for their own nervous whispers. They looked at each other with concern, realizing they were all alone in the deserted streets. Without any buses to take them home, they felt even more trapped and scared. Their minds started imagining all sorts of scary things, making their fear grow with each passing minute. Together, they tried to stay brave and support each other while they waited for help to come. As they waited, they got the courage they needed to face the uncertainty of the night. They stuck together, finding strength in each other's company as they waited for someone to come and help them. At about 9:30 p.m., a white Gujarati bus with tinted glass approached them. A boy was shouting from the bus door for passengers. He asked where they were going, and Jyoti's friend told him they needed to get to Dwarka. The bus conductor confirmed that was their route and final destination, so both friends boarded the bus without suspecting anything at all. He charged them 10 rupees each as fare. In fact, they were happy they finally found a bus that would take them home. The bus had only 6 other occupants, including the driver. The men started behaving in a scary manner and touching Jyoti inappropriately. The bus conductor also refused to give them any tickets after they paid their fare. Anyway, not receiving tickets was not a new thing for both of them. So, both of them sat silently inside the bus. The other guys they met in the bus were not passengers after all. They were part of a gang. The Jyoti and Avnindra's hearts sank as they realized they were on the bus with a group of rough-looking boys. Fear gripped them tightly as they exchanged uneasy glances, realizing they were outnumbered and trapped. The atmosphere on the bus felt tense and threatening. The boys' loud voices and rowdy behavior only added to the feeling of dread that washed over the two friends. They huddled closer together, seeking comfort and safety in each other's presence. With each passing moment, their fear intensified. They could sense the menacing stares of the boys, their unease growing with every step the bus took. It felt like they were on a collision course with danger, unable to escape the situation they found themselves in. Desperate thoughts raced through their minds as they silently prayed for the bus ride to end. They felt powerless and vulnerable, acutely aware of the potential danger lurking in the presence of the unknown boys. As the bus rumbled on, Jyoti and Avnindra hoped and prayed for a swift end to their ordeal. They knew they had to stay strong and alert, ready to protect each other at a moment's notice. In the midst of their fear, their bond grew stronger, a beacon of light in the darkness of uncertainty. The situation turned alarming when the bus veered off its intended route and the doors were sealed shut. Sensing trouble, the Jyoti's friend voiced his concerns and asked them where they were going. However, the 6 men along with the driver ridiculed the couple, questioning their presence alone at such a late hour. They started asking them questions about where they were coming from and what they were doing outside at such time of the evening. Avnindra was not comfortable with the men, and argument turned into shoving and pushing, and before long they were throwing punches and kicking the two friends. Jyoti's friend was also fighting back and tried to protect his friend, being the only female in the bus. But he was overpowered. They beat him mercilessly and gagged him. Avnindra found himself in a terrifying situation, his mouth tightly bound with a gag. The sensation was suffocating, as if his voice had been stolen from him, leaving him unable to cry out or scream for help or even help Jyoti. The gag pressed against his lips, restricting his ability to speak or even breathe freely. Each attempt to vocalize his fear or distress was met with the stifling sensation of the cloth against her mouth, silencing his cries for assistance. One boy inside the bus hit him on the head with a large metal during the fight and knocked him unconscious. The men then dragged Jyoti to the back of the bus, beating her with the iron rod and assaulting her while the bus driver continued to drive. Then the boys took turns and brutally molested Jyoti. For 2.5 hours they took turn on her. Many people, including a police car, passed by during this incident, but the glass was tinted and no one knew what atrocity was going on in the bus. This area was even very close to many police stations, but no one knew what was happening. No one stopped the bus because they were still driving the bus. The boys had their free rein over the poor soul. Her friend could not help because he was unconscious all through the ordeal. Jyoti fought against the boys, but they prevailed against her. Jyoti fought ceaselessly with courage with all her strength, but what chance did she stand against those brutes? She continued to bite each of them as they violated her, and she left her teeth marks on them. With her at the mercy of the hoodlums, she felt a sense of helplessness and vulnerability wash over her. It was as if her ability to communicate had been forcibly taken away, leaving her at the mercy of her captors and unable to assert herself or express her emotions as they violated her innocence. They beat and punched Jyoti because she struggled with them relentlessly. She was determined to find a way to free herself and escape from her predicament. With each passing moment, she resolved to overcome the obstacles in her path and bit them back, leaving bite marks on their bodies. They also retaliated by biting her back. She was determined to break free from the silence that bound her. Finally, they had had enough and decided to throw both friends out of the moving bus. They cared less if they lived or not. In fact, they wanted to eliminate Avnindra. They seized their clothes, mobile phones, and every other valuable item on them. They hit the guy on the head once again with the heavy iron and threw them out of the moving bus. The boys threw them out of the moving bus. Avnindra and her companion were engulfed in a whirlwind of chaos and terror. The suddenness of the action left them stunned, their bodies tumbling through the air as they were cast into the darkness of the night. The sensation of falling seemed endless, the wind roaring in their ears as they plummeted towards the unforgiving ground below. Panic seized them as they struggled to orient themselves amidst the chaos, their minds reeling with fear and disbelief. The impact of their bodies hitting the ground was jarring, sending shockwaves of pain coursing through their limbs. Bruised and disoriented, they lay sprawled on the roadside, their breaths ragged and shallow as they struggled to comprehend the gravity of what had just occurred. As they lay there, battered and vulnerable, the echoes of the bus faded into the distance, leaving behind a haunting silence broken only by the sound of their own labored breathing. In that moment of darkness and despair, they clung to each other, finding solace in their shared struggle and determination to survive. It was already about 11 o'clock that night. It was really late, and there weren't any buses around. The streets were becoming empty and dark, making the two friends feel more and more scared as they stood together. They felt exposed and vulnerable in the darkness. Jyoti tried to help Avnindra and cried for help. She started asking people for help, but many ignored them. Eventually, an unknown person called the police when he saw them in that very critical situation. Police team arrived and the victims were immediately taken to hospital. When the police team got to the place, they quickly helped the victims and made sure they were safe. They acted fast and got the victims to the hospital right away. The victims needed medical help urgently. Paramedics and other emergency workers took care of them carefully. They gave them first aid and made sure they were stable before taking them to the hospital quickly. The police team stayed focused and worked together well. They made sure everything ran smoothly to help the victims. Their fast response was really important. It helped stop more harm and gave the victims a better chance of getting better. Jyoti bled from everywhere on her body. She was bruised all over. She also had bite marks on her body. She was immediately put on ventilator and life support. News of the brutal attack spread like wildfire around Delhi, and before long the whole country and media was agog with the news of the night of December 16, 2012. A medical report from the hospital later said that she suffered serious injuries to her abdomen, intestines, and genitals due to the assault, and doctors said that the damage indicated that a blunt object, suspected to be the iron rod, may have been violently forced inside her body through her private area. The police said the rod was rusty and shaped like an L, like the handle of a wheeljack. This incident grabbed attention in India and worldwide. Even now, people are shocked by the horrible act. People got angry and protested against the government for not doing more to protect women. There were fights between protesters and police, especially in New Delhi. Delhi police engaged in ground-level investigation immediately to arrest the criminals. Within 24 hours of reporting this incident, Delhi police had arrested many suspects. CCTV camera was released by Delhi police and the bus was identified. The bus driver Ram Singh was arrested. One of the perpetrators later cleaned the vehicle to remove evidence. Police impounded it the next day. And then on the basis of Ram Singh's statement, the remaining 5 other criminals were also arrested. They were arrested and faced charges of assault and murder. So 2 brothers, 30-year-old Ram Singh and his 26-year-old Mukesh Singh from Rajasthan, were arrested. Ram Singh was the driver of the bus. Pawan Gupta was also arrested, as well as Vinay Sharma, who was an assistant gym instructor. Akshay Thakur and 19-year-old Pawan Gupta was a fruit seller. He was also arrested. Mohammed Afroz was 17 and a half years and a part of the gang. He was also arrested. Upon interrogation, one of the accused men admitted to having seen a rope-like object, assumed to be her intestines, being pulled out of Jyoti by the other assailants on the bus. 2 metal rods stained red were taken from the bus, and medical staff confirmed that it was the rusted object that was forced inside her that caused massive damage to her reproductive organs and intestines. 3 days after the ordeal, on the 19th of December, 2012, doctors perform another operation on Jyoti to remove her remaining intestine. The surgery went well, and she was said to have been in a stable but critical condition, and she remained on life support. Jyoti was transferred to Mount Elizabeth, a multi-organ transplant specialty hospital in Singapore. It is an intensive care unit, ICU, patient for organ transplants. During the 6-hour flight by air ambulance to Singapore on December 27th, Jyoti suddenly went into a near collapse, which a later report described as a cardiac arrest. The doctors on the flight created an arterial line to stabilize her, but she had been without pulse and blood pressure for nearly 3 minutes and never regained consciousness in Singapore. Her condition was extremely critical. She had suffered brain damage, pneumonia, and abdominal infection. She finally lost the battle on the 29th of December. Her body was cremated on December 30th in Delhi under high police security. After the death of Jyoti Singh on December 29, 2012, protests erupted across India, spreading to cities like Kolkata, Chennai, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Kochi, Tiruvananthapuram, Mumbai, Bhubaneswar, and Visakhapatnam. People gathered in large numbers to express their outrage and demand justice for the victim. Many of the protesters carried candles as a symbol of hope and solidarity, while others wore black dresses as a sign of mourning and condemnation of the brutal attack. Some demonstrators even went a step further by covering their mouths with black cloth, symbolizing the silencing of voices and the need to speak out against such atrocities. These protests were a powerful display of unity and determination, as people from all walks of life came together to demand justice and call for an end to violence against women. The widespread outrage sparked by Jyoti Singh's tragic death helped galvanize efforts to address the issue of gender-based violence in India and bring about much-needed change in societal attitudes and legal frameworks. Ram Singh, the first accused that was arrested and the oldest of all of them, committed suicide by hanging himself while still in police custody on March 11, 2013. While police claimed Singh hanged himself, his family and defense lawyers alleged he was murdered. The remaining 4 accused adult defendants were found guilty of rape and murder and sentenced to death. Finally, on March 20, 2020, the police officials got them ready for their last journey on Earth. The 4 convicts refused to eat their last meal or wear the execution uniform. Nevertheless, they were blindfolded and taken to the gallows specially prepared for them. Vinay Sharma, the assistant gym instructor, pleaded one more time for leniency, but it fell on deaf ears. At 5:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time, IST, the 4 men were executed at Tihar jail and declared dead after hanging for 30 minutes. The young bus conductor who called Jyoti and her friend into the bus was Mohammed Afroz. He was convicted of rape and murder and sentenced to 3 years imprisonment in a reform facility, following the Juvenile Justice Act, because he was just 17 years and 6 months old. I find this father's advice to his son very instructive. You might also like it. He says, "My son, pay attention to my wisdom. Listen carefully to my wise counsel. Then you will show discernment, and your lips will express what you've learned. For the lips of an immoral woman are as sweet as honey, and her mouth is smoother than oil. But in the end she is as bitter as poison, as dangerous as a double-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps lead straight to the grave, for she cares nothing about the path to life. She staggers down a crooked trail and doesn't realize it. So now, my sons, listen to me. Never stray from what I am about to say. Stay away from her. Don't go near the door of her house. If you do, you will lose your honor, and will lose to merciless people all you have achieved. Strangers will consume your wealth, and someone else will enjoy the fruit of your labor. In the end, you will groan in anguish when disease consumes your body. Thank you for staying with me till the end of the story. What are your thoughts on this entire case? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. If you appreciated our efforts, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do so now and stay connected with crime and prison. By subscribing, you'll receive notifications for more compelling stories like this one. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video with another gripping true crime story.